On today's episode of Andy and Ari on 3, it is a Dear Andy, Dear Ari day. But first, we check back in on the team we last saw driving, trying to win the national championship, and coming up just short. The Miami Hurricanes. What happens now after Miami's run to the national title game? Can the Hurricanes improve upon this season? Can they do it again? Can they win a national title? Well, a lot of that is still up in the air because a lot of Miami's future is in question with the targeted quarterback that the Hurricanes want getting sued by his old school. We'll talk about Darian Mensah and Duke and what's next for them. Also, your questions answered. Miami goes portal quarterback heavy. Is that something everybody is going to do from now on? Also, in the era of stars maybe not mattering as much, what does matter now? Our pal Lori asks a great question, plus a suggestion for what I'm going to have to do if Arch Manning does wind up in New York for the Heisman ceremony. We'll talk about it all on today's Andy and Ari on 3, presented by BetMGM. We are talking about those BetMGM college football futures, but all the spreads and totals and futures that we use come from our friends at BetMGM. If you have not signed up for BetMGM yet, what are you waiting for? Use the bonus code CFB, that's CFB, as in college football, and you'll get up to a $1,500 first bet offer on your first wager with BetMGM. Here's how that works. Download the BetMGM app and sign up using the bonus code CFB. Deposit at least $10 and place your first wager on any game. You'll receive up to $1,500 in bonus bets if your bet loses. Just make sure you use that bonus code CFB when you sign up. And if you're already signed up, got some goodies for you this week. An Any Sport Odds Boost token on Thursday and Friday, the 22nd and the 23rd. Use this token, add a wager made up of bets from any sport to your bet slip, activate the token. If you win your wager that was made with the token, you'll receive extra winnings in unrestricted bonus dollars. Plus, this weekend, a Pro Football Playoff Odds Boost token. Those are good on the 23rd through the 25th, so Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. BetMGM players receive a Pro Football Playoffs Odds Boost token to use it at a wager made up entirely of Pro Football Playoff wagers to your bet slip. Activate the token. If you win that wager made with the Odds Boost token, you'll receive extra winnings in unrestricted bonus dollars. So get playing. And if you haven't signed up yet, use that code CFB and sign up today. See BetMGM.com for terms. 21 plus only. U.S. promotional offers are not available in New York, Nevada, Ontario, or Puerto Rico. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER in the U.S. Call 877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY 467-369 in New York. Call 1-800-NEXT-STEP in Arizona. Call 1-800-327-5050 in Massachusetts. Call 1-800-BETS-OFF in Iowa or 1-800-981-0023 in Puerto Rico. First bet offer for new customers only, subject to eligibility requirements. Rewards are non-withdrawable bonus bets that expire in 7 days in partnership with Kansas Crossing Casino and Hotel. Don't forget, if you haven't signed up for BetMGM yet, use the bonus code CFB and get your $1,500 first bet offer today. Welcome to Andy and Ari on 3, presented by BetMGM. And Ari, we've talked a ton about Indiana, giving them their flowers, deservedly so. The Hoosiers, the most incredible turnaround probably in the history of sports. Curt Cignetti, there's not enough praise you can heap upon him. But we do need to talk about the team that lost in the national title game on Monday night, the Miami Hurricanes, because one, this was an incredible run for them. They recaptured something that Miami had lost for more than 20 years. Two, I kind of think they can do this again. And a lot of it depends on some transfer portal shenanigans that are going on right now, some very interesting legal wrangling that's going on right now. But you wrote about this. Despite the heartbreak in Hard Rock, Miami's future is still bright under Mario Cristobal, Ari. Where do we think the Hurricanes go from here?
Before we go to the future, I want to go backward just a minute. Because when you think about it, we got so overwhelmed by Indiana's performance in the national championship game in Hard Rock, Andy. I don't think that we even considered, and maybe we did a little bit, but think about how insane it would have been if Miami would have scored in that end zone at the end of the game. When you think about the story of their season and how it would have culminated in a touchdown.
Oh, I was thinking about it, Ari, because I had to write a story that would have been published as the clock struck zero. And that was my Miami story. My Miami story was going to be, if they ended up coming back, that the game was their season kind of in micro, where they had some slip ups and a moment where it looked like all was lost. And they still kept grinding and found their way back. And they came up short in this case, but it was the first one possession national title game since the second and 26 Alabama-Georgia game.
Oh, I think about that. I didn't even realize that. But I think if you think about the pain of losing, I think the worst thing about losing the way that Miami did was because of how close they were to maybe having one of the more remarkable stories in college football playoff history, if not college football history, in terms of location, season. This is a team that was, on the ropes and potentially may have been left out of the playoff altogether. They would have beaten Ohio State. They would have beaten Texas A&M. They would have beaten Ole Miss, and they would have returned in a game that nobody would have thought they had a chance to win, and then won on their home field in the last minute. That would have been something that you couldn't draw up you want to talk about the movie of Indiana. The movie of Miami would have been great. And the last thing, and I don't know if people put this together, Andy, you put this together before I did, but it kind of hit me on the plane home. Jabari Sharp, the defensive back from Miami or from Indiana that picked off Carson Beck at the end of the game, is
Jabari Sharp.
What did I say? Jamari Sharp is the nephew of Glenn Sharp, the cornerback from Miami in the 2002 game that was flagged up for the PI at the end of regulation that forced overtime. And that was maybe one of the most controversial calls in college football history. So the sick twisted knife in the chest of being twisted like that. This is like a twist of, and you have him in.
Also, Jamari played at Miami Northwestern. Yeah. He was not recruited by Miami.
And he reminded them on the field after the game. People asked him, no, maybe that's why they should. It's just awful. That's why they should have recruited me. And I think that the pain of losing, plus the agony of being so close to envisioning an ending that would have been unbelievably special, is the thing that you take away maybe in the first week or 6 weeks or 2 months even after the game, and you don't really reflect on Miami's build. And I think that Indiana is such an interesting case study of where college football is headed, and we're going to get into that later into the show. It's been so remarkable what Curt Cignetti has done. You almost forget that Miami has improved year over year over year under Mario Cristobal. And not every build is going to be new hire, great season year one, national championship year two. Just because Curt Cignetti is doing something so insanely, profoundly good and amazing doesn't mean that Mario Cristobal sucks. Mario Cristobal is doing an amazing job there. And when he got hired, remember, we used to have conversations if Mario Cristobal, the guy who played there, who was part of the U teams, the guy who's from there can't do it, then no one can. And we're not there where he's doing it. And I think that
Ari, a year ago right now, we made ourselves look like morons because we were thinking Miami just lost the number one pick in the draft in Cam Ward. And we knew he was going to be the number one pick in the draft at this point. And they're not even going to be the best team in their state. They're going to lose that to Florida, which they certainly did not. They ended up beating Florida on the field and then being clearly the best team in the state. And they're in a better position now than they were. And I think about that because this time last year, as Cam Ward is leaving, as they are losing that historic offense, you think, well, did they hit their ceiling under Mario Cristobal? And now we know they didn't. We know the ceiling is essentially national championship. Mm-hmm. They were one possession away from it this year. And depending on what happens with the rest of this transfer portal, they certainly seem like they're going to have the roster that they need to try to get back there.
Yeah, absolutely. Man, he's done a really good job. And they have gotten better year over year over year. Now, the only way you can get better from this past point now is winning the national championship. And I don't know if it's a realistic expectation to think that, if next year doesn't culminate in winning it all, that it was a failure. But when you think about all the demons that were slayed along the way, the ACC sucks. Mario Cristobal will shit his pants in big moments. Doesn't know how to take a knee at the end of the game. Like all the things that people said about Miami. They haven't won the ACC, which, by the way, is still insane to say out loud since they joined it in the early 2000s. All these things. I think that Miami's program should be viewed as one of the more healthy programs in the country, in large part, not just because of what they did in this run they went on, but how they're building it to go on these runs.
Well, and Miami has a formula that Mario Cristobal actually described it to us when he was on our show. I think it was in September, and he broke it down. I remember I quoted him in a story that we wrote the week the transfer portal opened last month, or I guess earlier this month. And he said, we want a mix of people. We want blue chip high school recruits. So that's your Francis Maui Noah, your Reuben Bain, your Malachi Toney. We want experienced transfer portal players. So that's your Carson Becks. That's your Keelan Marions. We want transfer portal players who have time remaining, who can then come and be with us. That's your Akeem Messidor. That is your Marty Brown. That is your Zechariah Poyser. It's a good mix. It works. It feels like a workable formula going forward.
I mean, it kind of feels, Indiana adjacent, because Indiana had a great mix too. Indiana had portal players who came in. They had high school players that, even though Indiana has never been one to recruit blue chip players, they had players on their team that were recruited from previous staffs that were still on the team and making a big difference. Offensive tackle Carter Smith comes to mind.
Jamari Sharp.
Right. The guy that wasn't recruited by Miami. They had the transfers that came in that were there for multiple years. They had the 1-year rentals who won the Heisman. Like they did everything the same way. And like, as we break down how to win a national championship in the stars matter less moment. And fun fact, Andy, I don't know if you know this, but I bought a vanity plate for a car that I bought, and it says stars matter on it, and I might have to change it. So yeah, that's not.
Can you change it to Portal Matters?
Portal PRTLMTRS. Yeah.
Yes. Portal Matters.
I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know what we're doing with that, but I think that blend matters, right? And I do still think that the teams, for the most part, I don't know, we didn't talk about this, but do you believe that, teams can get away with recruiting top 40 classes and winning national championships now? Is like what Indiana did the norm or the expectation? Or do you still feel like, by and large, that if there are 8 national champions or 9 national champions in a 10-year period, that 8 or 9 of those will still be teams that recruit the way Miami does? Like, so I don't know what it will be. Yeah.
We're going to get into this because our friend Lori, who asks the best questions, she has a great question that we're going to answer in the Dear Andy, Dear Ari section of the show about this very thing, about what matters now. So we're going to talk about that. But I think we agree that Miami has a really good formula, that Miami's formula is one that I think other schools, if they're not already doing it, you mentioned Indiana, pretty much doing that too, other schools may want to copy it. And now we're watching Miami try to execute that formula for 2026. So let's talk about where they're at in terms of that, because the biggest current story in college football is the situation with Darian Mensah at Duke. And so we have news since the last show about Darian Mensah. He was officially entered into the transfer portal at 11:55 p.m. Eastern time on Wednesday night. And we know that the judge in the case, because remember, Duke is suing Darian Mensah, claiming that he is breaching their contract that they have. He has a 2-year deal with Duke. The judge said Duke had to put him in the portal, but he is not allowed, based on the court, this injunction that was issued, he is not allowed to enroll at a new school or join a new college football team before the hearing on this case, which is currently scheduled for February 2nd. So Darian Mensah is the target for Miami. This is the guy that Miami wants to be its quarterback next year. Another piece of interesting news that may also impact Miami, Darian Mensah was not the only Duke player entered into the transfer portal on Wednesday. Ari, a guy that you wrote about when he was in high school, also entered the transfer portal, and that is Cooper Barkate. He was their leading receiver this year. And remember, he spent the first 3 years at, and Saved by the Bell fans will understand this one, nobody else. Bud.
Is that only a Saved by the Bell thing?
Did you see the episode with the college fair?
I haven't seen Saved by the Bell in 20 years. So, I mean, probably, but I have no recollection of any of it.
In the episode of the college fair, everybody's looking at their different schools. Jesse originally wanted to go to Stanford. I don't know if Stanford issued a cease and desist, so they started calling it Stansbury. But then there was a guy from Harvard, and that's how he said it every time. I think that's the one where Zach got the really high SAT score, and he realized he was a candidate to potentially go to Harvard. So that's where Cooper Barkate went first, though.
You know, there's a lot of people who talk about things incessantly. And I think like CrossFit's one of them. I think, you know, if you do CrossFit, you bring that up a lot. Eating vegan probably, or being gluten-free, you talk about a lot. I'm trying to think of some other ones. If you run a marathon, you probably talk a lot about that. And by the way, there was a marathon happening in Miami as we were trying to get to where we were going, and it annoyed Andy.
It was a 5K. It wasn't even a marathon.
Whatever it was, it annoyed you.
I have no respect for 3.1 miles. But go ahead.
Yeah, if you're going to block my traffic, you better go 30 miles.
26.2.
If you're going 3.1 miles, get out of the street. But going to Harvard was one of those things, right? Like there was a contestant on The Bachelor a few seasons ago that went to Harvard, and I think he brought it up in every conversation he had with every person he met.
I don't think Cooper Barkate does, though. Cooper Barkate is a pretty accomplished dude, and he goes to Duke. He's their leading receiver this past year, but yes, he's in the portal now. And according to our friend Portal Pete Nakos, Miami is a school to watch for Cooper Barkate. Now, given his productivity for the ACC champion Blue Devils, I think other schools will be interested as well. But it will be fascinating to watch. Does he wind up at Miami alongside Mensah? Now, we think that still happens. So we talked about this quite a bit on Wednesday's show. Duke is suing Darian Mensah. This feels, though, a little bit different. We talked about the Damon Williams situation where he was going to go in the portal from Washington, thought he was going to wind up at LSU, and then he changes his mind and decides to stay at Washington. We think because the Washington contract probably didn't have a lot of holes in it. This one, the Team Mensah seems more confident that they will be able to get him out of Duke, and then we presume to Miami. So I do wonder if we're going to see like a financial settlement before the date of this hearing.
Yeah, I would be surprised at this point if there was a hearing, right? I mean, it kind of feels like it's heading that direction. I don't think
Duke would have sued if they thought the contract was strong enough that just the threat of the suit would get him to come back. Because remember, Washington never actually sued in the Damon Williams case. Even the threat of it was enough to make you rethink the plan. This one, they have sued. So they probably felt like that was their best bet at keeping him there. But the fact that he didn't just say, okay, fine, I'm not going to the portal. You know, his people were like, no, put him in the portal.
Yeah.
And then they did.
Well, I don't think that there's any possible way that Mensah will be ever playing at Duke again. So now it's up to Duke to try to figure out, you know, what's the number that they can get in financial, you know, recourse in order to like move on from this. So like, I think that in the beginning of this whole thing, you always hope, if you're the entity or the school, that it'll wind up the way that it wound up with Damon Williams at Washington, where, you know, some people might be upset or some people might have been rubbed the wrong way by the intention, but you bring that person back and hopefully mend those fences and have a really good player playing quarterback for you. Like that, the cat's out of the, you know, what's, you know, the hay's out of the barn or in the barn. I don't know. He's gone. However you want to put it, he's out.
I thought the same thing with Williams, because I thought it was a situation where maybe you can't go back, but he's going back. So, but yes, it does seem like Mensah's team is ready to push this thing forward, and they're going to try to get him out of Duke. Now, Miami not done trying to put more pieces onto this team because Jordan Seaton, the offensive tackle transfer from Colorado, is also looking at Miami. And he has looked at Miami. He's gotten a visit from Oregon. He took a visit to LSU. So he's looking at a bunch of different. Texas is another school that's been interested in him. But Portal Pete wrote on Thursday that Miami's starting to look like the favorite, although Pete is not willing to make a prediction as to where Jordan Seaton's going to commit yet. So we don't know. It sounds like that one's still kind of up in the air. But you got him. You also got Damon Wilson, who's the edge rusher from Missouri, who was at Georgia. And I don't know, maybe Miami just likes the guys that get sued by their old schools, because Damon Wilson is actually being sued by Georgia right now and is countersuing Georgia. But he's in the portal as well and may wind up at Miami.
Do you think about going back to law school so you can better understand things? Or do you think you've got a pretty good grasp of everything?
Going to law? I know I need to go. I should go to law school. I feel like I could do my job a lot better if I went to law school and understood these concepts, which I do not. I call people who went to law school to help me with them.
Is when you go to college for journalism to be a sports writer, you do it because you like sports, and then you don't realize how little you actually write about sports.
Well, and the funny thing is, like, the path for a lot of sports writers is you go into sports writing, realize the pay is absurdly low, and then go to law school.
Yeah. Is it too late? I don't know. I don't know if it's too late.
It's never too late, Ari. It's never too late. But this will be interesting with Miami, because if they get all of these guys, which all of them is saying a lot, but if they got them all, you're feeling pretty good, because, again, they're bringing back Malachi Tony. They're bringing back Marty Brown. They're bringing back some really good players from this team. And, again, they've been recruiting high schools well in this period. Presumably, they've been developing players. You know, we had Alex Mirabal on the show from Media Day. You'd love to have that guy coaching your offensive line. You got Jackson Cantwell coming in, the 5-star offensive tackle, the number 1 offensive line recruit in the country. So if they pull all this off, I would think you put them among the favorites to go deep in the playoff next year. Yeah.
You want to figure out a way to replace Akeem Mesidor and Ruben Bain and CC Maui Noah. Like, they've done a pretty good job in the portal of at least addressing those positions with some really good players. I don't know. Yeah. And you bring back, some important pieces. You bring back maybe the most electric offensive skill position player in the country, and then you're on the verge.
And is Darian Mensah an upgrade over Carson Beck?
Yes,
it's at least equal.
It's an upgrade.
Okay, so if you got all that, you should be feeling pretty good about the way things are going. By the way, here's another one for Miami. Another person they kept who, based on their performance this year, would have been highly in demand. Corey Heatherman, the defensive coordinator.
Mm-hmm.
He's still there.
Yeah, they fixed the defense pretty good, wouldn't you say?
Yeah.
You remember how bad it was?
It went from being the problem to being the solution.
Right. And usually that's a 2 or 3. I mean, when we used to talk about it with USC, they was like, this is a 3-year process. I remember that game they played against Washington 2 years ago. Or 3 years ago now, where it was like the worst defensive effort I've ever seen in my entire life. And they got gradually better with Dan Lynn, who's now gone. But as quickly as they did this is insane. And part of that too is that
Miami's defense got good overnight, thanks to Corey Heatherman and some very well-timed and well-selected portal additions.
It also helps too that Ruben Bain didn't have a great year last year and got healthy and then turned into Myles Garrett. So, Ruben Bain's a top 5 pick, right? So they have if I'm a Miami fan, I'm looking at the way that they're recruiting. I'm looking at the way that they're supplementing their roster and replacing pieces in the portal. And I'm looking at this as okay, well, we're pretty sad about the way things just went, and rightfully so. They were so close to having something so spectacular. Like, if you're a Miami fan, you might as well just hang it up if they would have won that game. Nothing ever would be better than doing what they would have done. And part of being a fan's the chase, right? Like I always talk about this. It's like when you go to the national championship game as a fan, like I even would wonder, like if you're an Indiana fan, write us emails or send us something so we can talk about it. But like after your team wins the national championship, there is an empty feeling because there's no more chase. You did it. You celebrate.
I don't think the fans are feeling empty right now. I think those Indiana fans are feeling pretty awesome.
Like, it's like after you win the championship, it's like, now what? You celebrate.
Well, it is especially for the people involved. And I've actually one of the books I helped write with Trevor Moad. One of the chapters we had was about how you can't make something like that your ultimate goal in life, because if you ever reach it, you'll be profoundly unhappy afterwards.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah.
Because I like, and the person who explained it best to me was Billy Donovan, who's currently the Chicago Bulls coach, but he coached basketball at Florida and he won 2 national titles. And he talked about how after he won the first national title, like he felt almost empty inside. Because he said, this was my whole goal. This was my reason for living. And I got it. And it's like, oh my God, I've got a lot of life left to live still. Because he was very, like, I want to say he was in his early 40s when he won it. He might have been late 30s.
And then what did Billy Donovan end up doing after that?
Yeah.
What did he end up doing after that?
He ended up calling people who had won championships. So he talked to NFL coaches. He talked to college basketball coaches who had won championships and said, how did you deal with it? And built a plan based on their advice, because some of them dealt with it well, some of them didn't deal with it well. And they told him, here's what I did, here's what worked, here's what I would have done differently. And so he figured out, and part of it was he had that team coming back that was good enough to win it again. And so a lot of those coaches told him, hey, your players are coming back. You guys are going to be the favorites to win. Don't worry. You're about to get challenged in ways you've never seen before, because this is going to be harder than you think.
And then what did he ultimately do in life?
What did he ultimately? He realized that there is no end goal. Like there's no brass ring that you're striving for, that once you grab it, everything's going to be okay. Like you have to understand that every day is its own new creation. You have to go to the NBA.
He just went to the NBA.
He did.
Yeah.
And that's
what I'm getting at. Like he accomplished what he did.
No, he didn't go to the NBA immediately though. He went back to the Final Four with Florida.
No, I know, but I'm saying like eventually you want to go tackle the other thing, which is I want to be an NBA champion. I mean, there's always something.
But I guarantee you, if he wins the NBA title, he won't look at it like he did that first Florida title.
Yeah.
He'll have a plan going forward. Now, I don't know if you've seen the Bulls play. I don't think that's happening right now. So
if you're a Miami fan, you're probably profoundly disappointed in the moment. But when you think about the hunger,
you got to be pumped about what's coming, though. Like, yeah, they can do this again. They can do this again.
Yeah. Absolutely.
So, Ari, we got some great questions. One of them starts out with basically Miami's philosophy. But before that, these words from Dell. Every great idea deserves the power to bring it to life. Meet the all-new Dell XPS laptop, the perfect combination of style, power, and performance designed to elevate everything you do. With its modern, ultra-thin design, it's as stunning as it is functional. And the battery, it's built to last all day long, from that first sip of coffee to your evening wind down without missing a beat. The Infinity Edge display captivates with vibrant colors and crystal clear detail, pulling you into an immersive experience whether you're working or streaming. And when it comes to performance, the XPS doesn't just keep up, it leads the way. Whether you're tackling your biggest projects or bringing your creative vision to life, it's built for editing photos, mixing tracks, and designing masterpieces. Powered by the Series 3 Intel Core Ultra processors, the XPS gives you the freedom to create without limits all day long. The Dell XPS proves there's no need to compromise. Style, power, and reliability come together in one expertly crafted machine. Check out the all-new Dell XPS at dell.com/XPS. We are back, and it's my favorite time of the week. Dear Andy and Ari, your questions, we attempt to answer them, and we got some great ones today. Ari, our first one comes from Travis in Houston. Miami has a unique approach to quarterbacks, completely ignoring high school recruiting and dropping a bag on a proven portal guy. With how random high school quarterback recruiting is, will we see more teams adopt this approach? Notre Dame pre-CJ Carr and Indiana have done similar. Do you think this is a better approach to your QB room? Using Rivals industry rankings, 16 of the top 20 QBs from the 2024 Rising Draft eligible juniors have transferred at least once already. Is it still worth recruiting high school QBs? And then he says Florida State would probably be a counterexample of how this can go wrong. But they also don't land as proven of players. Okay. This is a great question because this was the thing that was driving me nuts last week when I was texting you and River. And I asked it from the other direction. I was like, if you're a high school quarterback, like a blue chip high school, why the hell would you sign with some of these schools? You know they're never going to play you. You know they're just going to recruit over top of you.
Yeah. I mean, it's just like if everybody decided to do this, then what would happen though? Like you have to play somewhere to become proven. I think you'd go. I talked to Ricky Ronnie from Old Dominion about this because they lost their quarterback, Colton Joseph, to Wisconsin, and they've got some guys they recruited out of high school that have been waiting there and are going to play. And I think Ricky understands, like, if whoever wins the job blows up and is great this year, he's losing him. Mm-hmm. And I think perhaps the better high school quarterbacks may have to decide, I'm going to go to a group of 5 school so I can play and then get the payday. It's almost like getting a second NFL contract, just in a much more compressed time period. Well, the question that I've kind of had more than anything is whether the portal quarterback situation is eventually going to drive down the price of what people are paying for high school quarterbacks. Like as this data becomes more available and we start to see that most of them are transferring or not being successful on their first stop, like, is the appetite for people to pay whatever Tennessee had to pay Brandon or whatever, how much Tennessee paid Nico. And those are just 2 examples that come to mind. I mean, everybody's doing it. Is it a good investment? And should you be using your money in your NIL dollars for more prudent, proven assets? And like that also comes into question other positions. Now, quarterback's the most visible, but should Ohio State pay over $1 million for a 5-star safety, or should they pay Caleb Downs $2 million? Like, I mean, like, I think that you could do this game across the board. Now,
I think you do it across the board, but I think it's different with quarterback because all the other positions you can reasonably feel like you can grab some guy. And the other part is you can also play somebody in a lot of positions early, but not put them in a position where the whole team is relying on their performance immediately. And I like with a safety, with a linebacker, not necessarily with an offensive tackle or a center or a guard, but you can have like play somebody as like a 6th offensive lineman where you're playing him some plays, but not completely reliant upon him. And obviously running back, receiver, you can work those guys in. So Travis brought up the 2024 class, which I think is really interesting. You ready to hear the list? I'm going to give you the top 10 quarterbacks in that class according to the On3 industry.
2024?
2024. So these will be juniors this year or redshirt sophomores. Number 1, DJ Lagway, transferred. Number 2, Julian Sand did transfer, but not really.
Can I try to guess some of the names just from memory?
All right, number 3.
So who are the first 2 that you said? You said Sand and
Lagway.
This is Dylan Raiola's class, so Dylan's up there.
He's the next one.
Yeah,
transferred. Now started 2 years and transferred.
But CJ Carr was in that class. That's one another.
He's
one.
He's number 6.
Okay,
you got a couple ones before that. Luke Kromenhauk, Florida State signee, number 4. He's
Aaron
transferred.
Nolan.
Number 5, Ohio State signee, then transferred to South Carolina, then transferred. Where is he now?
He's in a lower division now, I think.
He's at Memphis now. He's gone with Charles Huff. So, and then CJ Carr.
Jordan Davis was there. He's not in the high levels anymore either. The Michigan signing.
Jaden Davis. That he went to Michigan. He was number 8, and he is now at East Tennessee State.
What about Walter White?
Walker White, not Walter White, not meth dealer. Walker White was from Arkansas. He was Hugh Freeze's first quarterback signee at Auburn, one of Hugh Freeze's first commitments at Auburn, and he has transferred to Baylor since, and he is now committed to transfer to Central Arkansas, best known as the school where Scottie Pippen went.
Wasn't Damon Williams in that class too?
Damon Williams was number 13.
Okay.
Signed with Arizona, then went. So he did the kind of Julian Sayin thing where he signed with somebody and then ended up going somewhere else.
Yeah. And I was obsessed with the quarterback in that class, who was a little bit undersized, but like lit up every camp I went to, and that was House Haney.
Haney. That's right. He went to Oklahoma State.
Yeah.
He was the starter at Oklahoma State this year, got hurt pretty much immediately. He is now at TCU.
Yeah. Yeah, it is kind of a crapshoot. I mean, and think about it, like Lagway.
No, I'm sorry. He came from TCU, went to Oklahoma State. He's now at Colorado State. Excuse me.
Okay, he went to Colorado State. Florida invested a lot in Lagway.
Correct.
And I wonder if they never would have gotten Lagway, nothing would be different, obviously. Maybe I do think that there is something to be said, and I want to know what your opinion is on this. Do some of these NIL checks that you write to prospective high school athletes and the excitement and the discussion that it drives, is there any benefit to that? Like the fact that Florida at least was fueled, but with a bought-in fan base.
Okay. See, I'm going the other way. They weren't totally bought in because they were still kind of out on Billy Napier at the time. So if they don't get Lagway, let's say Lagway, instead of going to Florida, flips to USC on National Signing Day, and Florida doesn't have Lagway. They have Graham Mertz. He's going to be the starter in 2024. That means you're probably not getting an elite portal quarterback because Graham Mertz is your starter. And then the job's not open. So you probably would have, I don't know what kind of, you would have gotten another quarterback out of the portal to be your backup. So when Graham Mertz goes down against Tennessee, that guy's your starter. That probably gets Billy Napier fired a year earlier, if we're thinking about it that way. So what Lagway did was save Billy Napier's job for a year, which we said last year when he beat LSU and Ole Miss, that's all of Billy Napier's hopes were pinned to DJ Lagway. So yeah, Florida would have a different coach than John Sumrall now because they would have fired Napier and hired somebody last year. It might have been Lane Kiffin. Who knows?
Remember where we were on Florida in July?
Oh, wait. Lane Kiffin would have made the playoff in 2024 at Ole Miss because they would have beaten Florida playing with not DJ Lagway at quarterback.
That's wild. It's a wild butterfly effect there. But is there anything to be gained by the check that you write DJ Lagway for the summer that Florida had last year in terms of ticket sales, fan enthusiasm?
No, because it still came crumbling down. You still fired the guy.
Yeah, it came crumbling down after people bought tickets.
I guess, but people were going to, you would have fired him earlier and they would have bought tickets for the new coach, whether that was Lane Kiffin or somebody else.
Yeah, it is. It's just an interesting thought exercise too, because I think a lot of times people write checks as statements. Yeah.
I think the other part of it, and I think Travis points it out in the question, it is such a crapshoot with quarterbacks out of high school. The industry ranks people fairly well in other positions. Like we're pretty good at predicting success in other positions. We're not at quarterback. Ditto for the NFL scouts. They're bad at it too. It's just hard to predict whether a quarterback's going to be good when they jump up a level.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know if they're bad at analyzing them.
Well, they're bad
CJ Carr's good. Dylan Raiola's pretty good. Julian Sayin's pretty good. You know, there's some misses in there.
How about the dude at Central Arkansas? How about Luke Kromenhauk?
Yeah, I mean, there's certainly guys that didn't work out.
They went 500. It gets you in the Hall of Fame in baseball. It gets you fired anywhere else.
You think that going 500 is bad?
If you did this with offensive tackles, I don't think they went 500.
Yeah. No, it's definitely it's certainly harder for sure because of the
It's harder. I'm not saying they're bad at it. I'm saying it's harder.
But do you think we're ever going to get to a point where people are less likely to write a 7-figure check to a high school kid at that position?
I wouldn't do it now. I wouldn't do it.
Yeah.
I would get the established portal quarterback with starting experience at a like for a really good group of 5 team or a decent Power 5 team like Brendan Sorsby type. Now you got to have big money to get Brendan Sorsby. Mm-hmm. And then my next guy would be somebody who was maybe just elite in the FCS, who'd taken a ton of snaps, or somebody who was good in the group of 5, or somebody I liked coming out of high school who signed with a school that maybe didn't fit them and hit the portal and can get them, and I can get them as a distressed asset.
Well, the other thing
willing to be a backup
is you also have to have confidence in your school and your mechanism to getting that guy. Because there are certain schools too that might have a harder time getting them, right?
Right.
Like just because they're there doesn't mean you've got them. I mean, Miami is in the position that they're in with Mensah because they didn't get anybody, and it's not because they were playing in the national championship. It's not that they're a bad program. It's just like it's kind of a crapshoot who you land too.
Well, and there also weren't a lot of them because
bidding wars that are more expensive. Like I'm assuming that. If you had to pay a high school quarterback $1.5 million to sign with you, that's still 1/5 the price of what they're going to end up winding Mensah if he goes there.
But my thing is, on the other side of it, if you're the high school quarterback, do you want to do it? Do you want to sign with these schools? Like Jared Curtis, I get. The Vandy job is open. So you sign with Vandy. But
you think it's bad business to go to a place that already has a quarterback if you're a high school player? Did Tavian St. Clair make a bad business decision by going to Ohio State?
So he's not their starter. He wasn't their starter this past year. He's not their starter this year.
And there's no guarantee he would be the year after.
If he's not their starter next year, then yeah, he messed up.
I'm sure he's being compensated quite well to be the backup, though.
I'm sure he is, but how is he moving toward the NFL?
You only need 1 year.
You got to play at some point.
Yeah.
It can't all be Matt Castle.
Yeah. I think that there's 2 sides of the coin too.
Like with and the Tavian St. Clair thing, I'm not saying he made a mistake yet. Like Julian Sayin may have another great year this year, go to the NFL, and then Tavian St. Clair takes over, and that's fine. That's actually the old school normal progression. If Julian Sayin though has a good year this year and is like, you know what? I don't think I'm quite ready yet. I think I want some more starts at the college level.
Which, by the way, could happen.
Oh. We've seen with Dante Moore this year.
Yeah.
And it's not a bad line of thinking. It really isn't. Because you can get paid if you're a successful college quarterback, whether you're staying at your old school or going somewhere else, you get paid really well. So that's the risk you take if you're someone like Tavian St. Clair.
Who are the quarterbacks who stayed at their current place too long?
Matt Barkley was one. But I mean, it's not as in this era, I can't think of one. Because like Jalen Milroe got pushed out. He's one that made, if he'd have played another year at Alabama, that might have
Is Ryan Puglisi somebody who stayed at Georgia too long?
He hasn't played yet. I don't know if he's any good or not.
Yeah. Because also if you're not very good, not that he isn't, but just in theory, if you're not a star, getting paid a nice check behind the scenes to be a backup isn't a bad gig either.
It's not a bad gig, but I'd rather be a good starter in college and then do that in the NFL. The Chase Daniel model is a great way to go.
Yeah.
So it's a fascinating question. Great question from Travis.
Andy, what you're going to find is that I think that it's human nature for us to want a cookie cutter, like the best way to go about things. And the fact is that everybody does it differently and everybody.
And Notre Dame's a great example of this. Notre Dame rented Sam Hartman and rented Riley Leonard. And I mean, they made the national title game renting Riley Leonard. But CJ Carr turned out to be great for them. And he signed out of high school. He was very good last year. We suspect he'll be very good this year. We suspect he'll take him to the playoff. So
and the question I have is, which one do you think Marcus Freeman prefers, too?
The second one. The CJ Carr. Yeah.
I agree.
So, yeah, that's a great question. Here's another really good question. Hadn't really thought about it this way, but I'm glad Patrick asked it. So this is what Patrick asked. Is the ACC really dead, or did it, in the most go ACC way possible, actually set up the future of revenue distribution for the power conferences? Miami's positioned even better than they already were, and that seems like an advantage you wouldn't want to give away. Do Florida State, Clemson, and to a lesser extent North Carolina regret giving Miami and the rest of the ACC a chance to close the financial gap for the immediate future? Miami was already in the ballpark, but now will they be way ahead in the financial arms race? And so what Patrick is asking is about the new ACC revenue distribution system, which came about in the settlement of the lawsuit with Florida State and Clemson. And part of that is that if you make the playoff, like in the other conferences, if you make the playoff, the money you get from the playoff goes to the conference and then gets distributed out. Now you get more than the other conference members because you were the one that made it, but it's not an obscene amount more. Miami gets to keep it all. Like the new ACC distribution plan is like, you make the playoff, you keep everything. Yeah. So that is really interesting, and I hadn't thought about it that way. That is a nice advantage. It does put Miami on a little bit better footing relative to the SEC and Big Ten schools. That was the concern of Florida State and Clemson, and also North Carolina and Miami, that the Big Ten and SEC schools just made so much more in TV money that the gap was impossible to close. So what the ACC said is, hey, look, if you're in the highest rated TV games in our league, if you are making the playoff, we're going to reward you for that. And so Miami will be the most rewarded because they played in every round of the playoff. They were involved in the most highly rated games, or some of the most highly rated games in the ACC this year. So they financially, in terms of money received from their conference, will look a lot more like an SEC or Big Ten team now.
Yeah. Yeah. No, it's do you think that what they did this year has changed the dynamic of the way that it's going to be viewed, or do you think it was just a team from a random conference that got hot?
No, we knew Miami was spending in a way that was going to allow them to compete. And look, perhaps that happens with somebody else in the league.
Yeah.
What if Virginia Tech's great this year? We saw they were going to put more money into football. They hired James Franklin. You saw the transfer portal class they got, which is a lot of guys that are following Franklin from Penn State. But if Virginia Tech makes the playoff, which means Virginia Tech's been playing in big games all season, which means their TV ratings are probably pretty good, then Virginia Tech's going to make more money than the other ACC schools. So is it the future of conference revenue distribution? Maybe, because you've already got Ohio State's president saying they need to do that in the Big Ten. I will point out, though, that in the past, the Big 12 did it. The then Pac-10 did it. It was actually, it sowed a lot of discord in the past when they did uneven revenue distribution. People just got mad. So I think it's a good short-term solution, and it certainly kept everybody from just saying, we got to find a way to blow this whole thing up. But I don't know that it's a long-term solution. But yeah, if I'm Miami right now, I'm feeling really good about it.
Yeah. I don't know. I don't know where I stand. I do feel like things should be merit-based and that you should, be compensated for being successful. But on the same token, that also creates a divide in your own league. Like if the same teams keep getting paid more, that means they've got more to invest, which means that.
But what's interesting to me about this, Ari, is the assumption was this money's all going to go to Florida State and Clemson, and they're not playing well enough to get it. Miami got it this year. I just mentioned, what if Virginia Tech gets it next year?
Yeah.
What if Georgia Tech gets it? What if SMU gets it? Like in the Big Ten, you'd expect that's going to be Ohio State, Michigan, and Oregon. Indiana would be getting it if they had something similar.
And maybe it promotes an environment where you invest more in your roster because you're trying to chase a payout.
Yeah. Yeah. So I'm curious to see what happens here, because I'm looking at the ACC logos right now, and I'm thinking about the 2026 season and who can be good. And Jeff Brom at Louisville, I always assume they're going to be pretty interesting. I think SMU is going to be pretty interesting as long as Rhett Lashley's there. We saw Brent Key do a good job at Georgia Tech. We saw Tony Elliott made Virginia a lot better this year. We're very interested in what James Franklin does. Jake Dickert had Wake Forest overachieving in year one. Like, it may not be that Clemson and Florida State get all the money, even though that was the plan in the settlement.
Yeah. Congratulations. You played yourself.
Having stood next to DJ Khaled 5 feet away, him and Fat Joe the other night. That is one of my favorite gifts of all time. The DJ Khaled, congratulations, you played yourself.
Congratulations, you played yourself.
All right. Next question from Lori. I love when Lori asks questions because she just thinks very deeply about this stuff. A few years ago, when the players could suddenly both transfer as much as they wanted and also be paid for NIL, everything changed. And the people complained, as they only ever do, that these changes would just, quote, make the rich get richer. At the time, I remember thinking the opposite, that with the general talent of the players on the field being more equalized, this is all going to come down to coaching, specifically the part of of coaching that is motivating. As a Georgia fan, I can rest easy knowing we have Kirby Smart. Isn't that nice for me? Curt Cignetti is obviously very good at the part of coaching that is getting the best results from the players he has. But he also had a Heisman-winning quarterback and a bunch of actual adults on the roster. And I think it's impossible to take the luck out of it, too. And while Indiana did not have near the highest payroll in the league, surely it's not a coincidence that one of the most famous billionaires in the country is an alumnus. So if stars don't matter like they used to, what matters? Coaching, quarterback, player experience, money, luck?
Yes.
And since you guys brought up basketball, which I don't watch, do you think stars will still matter on a basketball team with a much smaller roster? Stands to reason that one guy can change the trajectory of a team of 15 more easily than a team of 105. Very good question from Lori. So what matters now? I think we nailed it down. I think the most important thing was the thing we nailed down with Cignetti. And that is evaluating well based on what you need to run what you want to run. I think that is the most important thing. Like having the superpower of being able to evaluate, whether that's through high school recruiting or in a 45-minute phone call with Pat Coogan, that this is a person who fits my organization, who schematically fits what I need from a physical standpoint, who will thrive here and who will help everyone else thrive here. The ability to identify that person is the most important thing now.
Yeah, I think that's fair. I'm trying to think about like Indiana and all the things that went right for them.
Now, the them being old thing, they weren't that much older than Miami. Like Miami had lots of old players too.
Yeah, and BYU's always
was in
old.
year 6.
I mean, BYU's always old.
Right,
always.
Because Mormon players tend to serve missions and come back and still have eligibility.
And I remember, when I was covering Ohio State, there was a moment there when, and maybe this was the height of the Stars Matter era, where if you had a person that was a 4th-year senior starting on your team, it was almost bad because that means that they didn't go to the NFL and that means they're not that good. I think that like there is a little bit of that, but like when you think about all the things that had to go right for Indiana this year, obviously, being able to call Pat Coogan and identify that he's the guy in 45 minutes to play center for you is certainly, up there. But what about evaluation of Fernando Mendoza? What about getting lucky that he developed into a Heisman winner and produced the way that he produced? What about the fact that the guys that he brought up from JMU, who, I know that it's cool to say that if you pull the best 10 players from JMU, that's going to win you a championship at the highest level. But like those guys turned into like draft picks at a high level. I mean, they're not like,
that's the thing. Like saying that he just took the guys from JMU, like everybody can just do that.
Yeah, let's just go take the 10
because you're going to see Matt Campbell took the best players from Iowa State. James Franklin took some of the best players from Penn State. Like we're going to see how that works. But that is not completely normal. Like D'Angelo Pons and Aiden Fisher turning into two of the best players at their position in the country is not normal.
Yeah. I mean, I think like everything went the right way. And I think that a lot of it too is coaching and the way that he evaluates players, both, the way they play and the way they are. I think those are two different evaluations, but like I feel like every break that you would have needed to win a national title also worked out in your favor too. So like, I don't know.
Producer River points out something really interesting. He texted us, speaking of luck, Indiana lost a fumble in week 1 against Old Dominion and didn't lose one the rest of the season. Like, that is a very random thing. Now, there's certain situations. There was a fumble in the Oregon game where Mendoza fumbles it down the field and Coogan is trailing the play and just dives on it. But it's coaching, like coaching your lineman to continue blocking downfield because something might happen is coaching, but it's also randomness. Sometimes the ball bounces a different way and bounces into somebody else's hands. I do think the more rounds of playoff you have, the more luck comes into play.
Yeah. And, like there's a play in the national championship game where I believe it was Ruben Payne who got to Mendoza and sacked him and like held onto the ball and like the ball almost came out.
It was the most amazing thing. I think it was Messidor, was it? Whoever it was.
I can't remember who it was. Yeah.
This is a huge human being, puts the giant paw on the ball and is holding it down, trying to push it through Fernando Mendoza's hands. And Fernando Mendoza just holding on for dear life and manages to get it back. Like, it was incredible.
And if they would have lost that fumble, they might have lost the game. So, like, I mean, I do think that the margins and the game of inches thing really comes into play now more than ever. Like you said, you have 4 games you have to play or 3 in the playoff to get to the end. And you need like that luck because you're going to be playing against really good teams most of the time.
Yeah.
I do love this. And I think we're going to have a full off season of this, of like discussing like the most recent case of like who won the championship. What do they do right? Who wins the championship next year might do it in a completely different way.
Right. If Oregon wins the championship, then we're right back to, the old way of doing things is the way you do it because that's what Oregon's been doing.
Yeah. I mean, and you look at all the way too early top 5s, or if River has the graphic. Do you have the graphic, River, handy of the BetMGM national championship odds that we had yesterday? Just 1 second. These eyes are never going to see another love like you. Here it is.
My brother came all the way. Okay, sorry.
Ohio State, Texas, Notre Dame, Oregon, IU, Georgia, Alabama, LSU, A&M, Tech, and Miami. What do most of those teams have in common?
Those are teams that were in the playoff last year.
Yeah, and they all, for the most part, there's 15 teams there? I think, 11 or 12 of them recruit high-end recruiting classes. Like, I mean, I don't know that we've completely reinvented the way that college football works.
No, basically, we shoved Indiana and Texas Tech in there.
Yeah. Okay. Texas Tech was awesome. So, and Texas Tech also is recruiting high school better as a result of their NIL, influx of cash
that's
too.
True.
It's not
they did not. We've concentrated on the portal stuff, but when they started doing this, they started spreading cash into the classes of 26 and 27, where they're going to be ranked higher.
Yeah, for sure. Didn't they have a few 5-stars committed in 27?
For 27, yeah. Yep.
Yeah. So, I mean, what I think should happen is that the money that you command out of high school as a generational prospect or a 5-star prospect or somebody you think is going to be a productive player should go down. And then as you produce in the college level, you should be rewarded with new contracts from your and it
sounds like something they might negotiate in a CBA.
Yeah. But I mean, it's just like you would think that that's how it would naturally work when the market sets itself, because
well, you would have thought that in the NFL, but it took Sam Bradford's contract to finally break them.
But the one thing that will never stop, it will never stop no matter what, is desperate team falls in love with really good high school player and overpays him because they're desperate.
Yeah.
It's always going to happen, and then that will set the market. Like there's no way that everyone's going to be like, okay, let's cap these 5-star quarterbacks at $500,000. Like,
and it may be because there's just too many teams. Like in the NFL, there's 32 teams. They have a fairly orderly process. Even if you had a CBA in college, there's still not going to be nearly as orderly a process. And there will always be somebody who's like,
yeah. And if somebody's a bargain,
spend now, I can do it.
If somebody's a bargain, Arizona's going to come in and go, we'll give you $100,000 more than what they're paying you. There's always going to be somebody who will give you more. And then eventually the yarn will unravel and you'll be back at $1.5 million. But I think if we get 10 years of data before that, I mean, maybe we'll get the CBA before then. I don't know. But if we get 10 years of data in the current system and it turns out that like nobody's getting an ROI on their players from high school, like people are going to stop doing it.
Yeah. Yeah. It's so interesting. And Lori asked a great question that we could spend the entire offseason arguing over. And again, just because of what Indiana did does not mean that is now the one way to do it. We just got through talking about what Miami does. And I think Miami's system puts them in a good place to be back competing for the national title again. I think what Notre Dame's doing now, which is slightly different, will put them in a position to compete for national. They played for the national title last season. I think they'll make the playoff and probably win some games in it this season. So there's a lot of ways to skin this cat, and we'll have to see what happens. One more. This is from John, and it is about our Arch Manning situation. For those who don't know, Ari, if Arch Manning does not make it to New York as a Heisman finalist this year, in 2026, Ari must run 5 miles while I wear a GoPro and mock him the entire time.
Which means you have to run too, though.
I'm not letting you out of this one. If Arch Manning is not a Heisman Trophy finalist next year, Ari is running 5 miles. I will put the GoPro on my head and taunt him the entire way.
You know what?
I'll
make it 6 miles to make it a mile.
No. 10 miles. We're going to drag you to the finish.
I don't think I could physically do that.
Don't make him do that. Not 10 miles. Come on.
How far is 10 miles? What's the half marathon?
It is 52,800 feet. A half marathon is 13.1 miles.
Yeah, you'd be 3 miles short of a half marathon.
I don't think I could even do 5. So let's just
don't recommend that, Ari.
Yeah.
All right.
Thank you for
5 miles. Fine. Yeah, I have to run 5 miles too, but that doesn't bother me, especially at the speed you would run 5 miles.
Yeah, and there's going to be some walking in the middle there. Like, let's be real.
Yeah, it's not affecting me at all. Like I ran 3.5 yesterday. It was fine.
3.5 mile walk in Miami, and it took us a long time. It's
I did the same walk a couple of days later.
And I was
not tired.
River will tell you, but like when we were doing it, I was like, how fast am I supposed to run if I lose this bet? And I even ran it. And I'm like, I think I could do this. Like I ran for 20 seconds and I was like,
if you're running an 11 or 12 minute mile, which is pretty slow, you'll be fine.
Yeah, you walk a mile at a normal pace in 18 minutes, right?
18 or 19, yeah. That's a pretty,
so at the very least, it'll only take
consistent pace.
So it'll really only take me an hour and a half, right? No matter what.
Yeah, it's going to be the worst hour and a half of your life. It's going to be fun for me.
I know.
So John has, because we asked for things that I can do if Ari wins and I lose, which again, I'm on the other side of this thing, but I kind of like Arch's chances. We'll see if he plays the way he played this season and gets better. Like there's a good chance, but here's what John said. I have 2 ideas for what could happen if Ari wins the bet about Arch Manning becoming a Heisman finalist next year. The first is every effort should be made to get Ari his own promotional code for the next sponsor of Andy and Ari. No Andy 15, Staples 20, or even Andy and Ari. If Ari wins the bet, he should get his own code like Ari 2K27 or something. I think that's fair. I think we can talk to our advertising partners and be like, listen, Andy's overexposed here. Ari needs his own codes. So easy one. If we're looking for something that punishes Andy more directly, I have a great suggestion. If Arch Manning is a Heisman finalist next year, Andy must acquire a Roback Texas A&M Hezzy hoodie or a shirt and wear it for an episode of the show. At the end of each and every segment of that show, Andy, in his best and most enthusiastic Ari voice, must say, "Go get 'em, Ags!"
That's go Terps, John. Thank you for the suggestion. I don't hate that. Somebody also said that you should do the exact opposite. And because I'm doing a relatively healthy and like pro-health activity, that you should do something gluttonous and like disgusting.
Like a mukbang.
Like you need a mukbang. You should have to like eat like,
yeah.
Like I go to like 12 fast food restaurants and get one item from every restaurant and you have to eat that item.
See, old Andy would have not considered that a punishment.
Yeah, you'd be like, that's great. Yeah.
Like, don't threaten me with a good time, baby.
No, but here's, I actually think I came up with it. I get to pick the menu items.
Well, as long as you leave the tartar sauce off the filet of fish, I'll be fine.
Yeah, I was just going to get 12 Filet-O-Fishes.
You put tartar sauce on that fillet of fish, I'm barfing all over you.
Okay. What about this? 1 Filet-O-Fish sandwich for every mile I have to run.
Done. 5 fillet of fish sandwiches. Easy.
And you're taking off the best part, the liquid gold.
We saw the mayo thing. If it's tartar sauce, imagine that with chunks.
Tartar sauce is so good, dude.
It's disgusting. It's the mayo of the sea. Ugh. All right. Now I'm not hungry. I was going to do lunch after this, but now I'm not hungry.
Yeah.
But Ari, well, actually, before I let you rant about the state of humanity today.
Oh, yeah.
I promised I would let you rant about the state of humanity. You sent us a text earlier and said, I have a rant in the chamber. I want to tell everybody, one, football season's over. Basketball season is in full swing. We're deep into conference play right now. Like things are getting spicy. We talked about Charles Bediako on yesterday's show. This is the guy who played at Alabama as a freshman and then went to the NBA and was on the G League rosters for the Spurs affiliate and for the Pistons affiliate, and has decided, I just want to go back to college. And a judge has granted him a 10-day temporary restraining order that allows him to participate in Alabama's basketball activities before a hearing. Now, his hearing is next week, so it may all go away after that. But he is allowed to play Saturday night against Tennessee. So that game's on ESPN at 8:30 p.m. Eastern time, Saturday night in Tuscaloosa, Tennessee against Alabama. Ari, I think every athletic director in America is going to be watching that game. It sounds like he's going to play.
I mean, I might want to watch it now.
Yeah. Well, like the Kentucky coach, Mark Pope's like, the NCAA should just say that if you play him, you can't be in the NCAA tournament. But the issue with that is the court order says you can't punish him or Alabama for them doing anything while he's protected by this temporary restraining order. So they can't even do it. Like if Nate Oates wants to play him, he can play him.
The thing that's so nuts too is that, like, what if you're doing all this, and then he comes off the bench and has 6 points and goes 2 for 8 from the floor. It's just
he averaged 6.7 points in the one college season he played, so that would be right around his average.
Yeah. It's just I don't know. It seems kind of like a circus, but that's college sports, man. We want it to be a circus.
That's exactly what it is. All right, Ari, you have a rant on the state of humanity.
Yeah. Well, first of all, Andy, I don't know if you guys realize this. My plan.
If you're in podcast form, I just want to let you know you need to watch the YouTube every once in a while, because producer River just produced what we call a lower third, which is the thing at the bottom of the screen that tells you what we're talking about. And it just says why humanity is cooked with Ari.
Yeah. I think it's not a revelation, but if you have been watching the news at all,
or checking the weather, which I do religiously, and you make fun
even
of me
I'm
for.
checking the weather. I don't check. I religiously don't check the weather, and now I am. Apparently, there is a winter storm that is coming through Texas, but will be like the entire eastern part of the country.
We're coming through the whole country. Yes, it's just sweeping through the country. Yes.
And I was going to be in Montana with my wife right now, but I'm not because of this storm. And I'm currently set to drive from Dallas, Texas to Mobile, Alabama on Sunday for the Senior Bowl. And apparently we're getting 3 feet of ice. I've never even heard of feet of ice. I don't even know.
I've never heard of that either.
Is that possible? I don't know what it is, but I
don't live in a place where ice falls on me, so I wouldn't know.
Yeah. So anyway, in order to prepare for what's coming, because the power grid in Texas isn't made for this, so people will lose power and all these sorts of things, I went to the grocery store. Mm-hmm. Like every human being should. And, I got a few water bottles, some food, some non-perishable items if for whatever reason we're stuck in our house and, we aren't able to go out for a few days. The store, when I arrive, is completely empty. Completely empty. Perishable items are gone. Chicken's gone. Fruit's gone. Water bottles obviously are gone. People are hoarding groceries at the moment in a way that you would anticipate post-apocalyptic behavior.
Well, I mean, look, you can buy as much meat as you want because it's just like putting it in the freezer. You just set it outside.
I guess, yeah. I didn't think about it that way.
Wouldn't buy any fruits or vegetables. Those don't.
But here's the thing that really chaps my ass.
Okay.
Is that even if the storm comes through and it is as bad as they're saying, and I actually think that the Weather Channel is propaganda to scare people, and that's how it drives ratings. I think that they make things seem worse than it actually is for the most part. Now, you live in a place that gets hurricanes and are actually dangerous. So maybe
they get really happy when there's a hurricane. They're excited about hurricanes. We're not excited.
You have to take hurricanes seriously, and I don't understand people if you're told to evacuate who don't evacuate. That's a completely different rant. But I think for the most part that news is sensationalized in weather the same way it is in politics and other things. But it's only supposed to be a 2 or 3 day thing, even at its worst. By next week, temperatures get back up into normal. The snow will melt. Grocery stores will be open. Why are people hoarding perishable items that you're going to be putting in your fridge or freezer that might not even have power this week? And it makes me think, like, we all saw the craziness with the toilet paper during COVID, right? Which was the most unbelievable thing, weird thing to hoard. But like, if we ever get to a point in time where society is without grocery stores for a month, or something terrible actually does happen, like, our society is cooked. People are like, I can't even make like dinner tonight, just on a normal day, because the grocery store is empty. And it's just like, what are we doing? Like, why are we doing this? Do you think I'm nuts? Like, why can I not buy broccoli in the grocery store today?
The broccoli thing amazes me. Like, who's like, let's get some bunches, like some heads of broccoli, because there's not like, you're not going to be able to cook it because you're not going to have power. You're going to eat the raw broccoli, I guess, before it freezes.
But it's just like,
doesn't make any sense.
Just like, be a human and buy enough groceries to get you through the weekend. You don't need to buy a month's worth of groceries today.
Where you live, you don't have a lot of natural disasters. It is not a common thing for you. Now, it's not common where I live either, but every year or so, there is a hurricane that comes and you need to be prepared for it. And so I feel like we Floridians are better prepared than people from other states because we've dealt with this. Now, we don't deal with everything well, as people. Ari spent several days in my fine state and kept saying this is the weirdest place in America. And I agree. But one thing we're good at is preparing for natural disasters. Like, we know what to buy. We're buying the batteries, we're buying the bottled water, we're buying the beef stew. Like, we know how it works. We're not loading up on broccoli.
But you know what is so funny, though, is that if you are a person that just got done spending a rack in the grocery store or $500, and you're buying perishable items, what you're basically doing is wasting food. Because by next Tuesday, regardless of how bad it gets this weekend or if we're without power, like, order will be restored in Texas very soon. And then you're going to be sitting on all the
maybe
supplies.
it won't. I actually, like, I'm kind of excited about what post-apocalyptic Ari will look like. Like, I don't think you're becoming a warlord in the post-apocalyptic landscape.
Yeah, my father told me I should buy a bunch of gold.
Like, what would you do? Like, what would your skill be?
That's what I told him. I said, okay, so I'll buy gold. By the way, through the roof right now. He was right. Should have bought gold. He made a lot of money.
That won't help you in the post-apocalyptic world because...
Let's just say the dollar crashes and my credit cards and my cash can't get me groceries.
Yeah.
And people are bartering for bread and water with gold. All I'm doing is collecting gold for the toughest guy on my block. Like, what am I doing with it? Like, I'm not gonna have gold. Like, if that take comes,
what are you gonna do when the lights go out? Like, what will your job be?
You mean like in terms of protecting
propagandist?
my family? Like, what if we ever get to a point where it is actually mayhem?
Yeah, I've thought about this. Like, I don't have a lot of useful skills. I have chosen a field that is completely worthless if the lights go out.
I mean, I think if we get to a point where media is no longer needed, then we've got bigger problems.
But like, I can't fix a circuit. I can't fix a car.
I have a handyman coming over to my house as we speak to put on a new shower head.
You're done.
Yeah.
If the lights don't come back on, you're like your beautiful wife.
Do you agree though?
She's gonna live in the warlord's house. She's not gonna be with you anymore.
Yeah, no, and I know that. I think we both know that. Like, you know. But one time, like, we heard a noise in our downstairs kitchen, or like in the middle of the night. Like, it felt like someone was in our house, and I got up and went down there, and I was like, I'm the man. I'm gonna take care of this. And like, she was into it, you know. But do you think that people lose control, like, over things like this?
People get scared, especially if they've never been in the situation before. That's why I'm joking a little bit, but
yeah,
people in Florida who live in Florida who deal with hurricanes all the time, like that first time the storm starts spinning, like my wife will tell me as soon as she sees it, go to the grocery store, go to Sam's Club, get the batteries in the water. We'll have it. It'll be fine.
Yeah, but like if you want to buy water, you don't need to buy 5 cases. Just buy 1. Buy 2. You don't need 5.
You don't know how long your power is going to be out. You ever had your power out for a week? We have.
If your power was out for a week, would you go through 5 cases of water as a family?
Yes. Especially if you have a boil water advisory and you don't have clean water, if your water supply gets affected.
5
Y'all
cases
never
of
have. You don't know what to do in a natural disaster.
5 cases of water.
I ain't following you.
A lot of water. I drink 4 water bottles a day, maybe max.
Well, that's not enough.
Yeah. Anyway, I don't think there's any consideration.
At least 72 ounces a day, Ari.
There's no consideration for anybody else ever, for anyone.
That's why you got to become the warlord.
Yeah,
that's gonna be my goal. If the lights
go
out,
buy a firearm today, take over the block.
You're in Texas. A firearm isn't helping you much. You got a neighbor who's got
have to know how to shoot it
more than a firearm.
You also have to learn how to shoot it.
Yes, it would help to know that. By the way, everybody, responsible gun ownership, very important. Ari, I am not following you if the lights go out. Now, I'm pretty useless too, but I feel like I got a better chance than you. This is the 2 dudes in the forest with the bear.
You know,
I ain't gonna outrun the bear. I just gotta outrun you.
I'm gonna do everything I can to get to Mobile. So just let's hope they're over.
We can only hope. Everybody, we'll be back on Monday. This is the last week of the season because there was a game this week. So last week of Monday through Thursday shows. We begin Monday through Friday next week. We'll show a single tear going down my cheek as we realize it is the off season, but that's okay. We're going to get you through this. Andy and Ari will be here for you every day, Monday through Friday, 3 p.m. Eastern time in the off season. We're going to be in Mobile for the Senior Bowl. We'll be talking to some of your favorite players as they move on to the next level. We'll be talking a lot of college football because we'll be getting some new info, I think. It's going to be awesome. Talk to you Monday.